Very good afternoon, and thank you for joining for this talk. Uh, so sorry for this slight delay, and we can give the blame on the weather because it is raining a little bit. I hope it's better to start it without further delay, and in between we may expect some more audience. So it's a great honor for me to introduce today's speaker, Professor Tushar Datta, to this August gathering. Professor Datta is an alumnus of 1966 batch of BE College Sipur, currently known as Indian Institute of Engineering Science and Technology. He completed his PhD from IIT Bombay in 1973. He was distinguished professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Delhi till 2014. His interests of research are in the general area of structural engineering with diverse fields like earthquake engineering, wind engineering, offshore dynamics, structural control, and stability of dynamic systems. During his teaching and research career, he guided over 45 PhD students, published over 200 journal papers, and nearly equal number of papers in reputed conferences. He is the author of the book Seismic Analysis of Structures, published by John Will International. He had significantly contributed to the educational development program as Chief QIP Coordinator of AICTE. He also acted as a coordinator for the upgradation of the Institute of Engineering IOE Kathmandu in Nepal, and significantly contributed to establishing its master's and PhD research programs in structural engineering. He had also been an active consultant to more than 200 structural engineering projects on behalf of IIT Delhi. Professor Datta is internationally well known for his work in the area of structural dynamics and recognized with several awards during his career. Amongst different awards received by him, the most notable one was the 15th Khwarizmi International Award by the President of Iran for his research work on earthquake engineering and structural control. He received two times the Lifetime Achievement Awards, one in International Conference in Structural Stability and Dynamics in 2015, and other in Structural Engineering Convention in India 2022. He also received Honor the Mentor recognition offered to only 12 faculty members in the history of 50 years of IIT Delhi during its Golden Jubilee celebration. He is a fellow of the National Academy of Engineering, India. Professor Datta is still active as a teacher, researcher, and consultant in general field of structural engineering. He is attached to several prestigious institutes of India. Professor Datta will share his decades of experience in the IIT system through his talk on productivity of scientists and engineers in academic settings. So I welcome Professor Datta to the dais. I request our Dean Infrastructure and Services, Dr. Deepak Swami, to felicitate Professor Datta with Himachali traditional shawl and cap.
Okay. Uh, I think I don't need this. One, this is fine. Sufficient. Okay. So इसको बंद कर दो. Otherwise vibration होगा. So good afternoon to everyone. It's really a privilege for me to talk to the faculty and the students of IIT Mandi. This is an excellent place to study, perhaps to meditate also. It's a very excellent place. And this afternoon I was talking to the students and I was saying that you don't have any here nearby, any PVR, any mall, any other entertainment places. So you can listen to the sounds of the channel flow and flow of water, and you can talk to the mountains if you want. So it's a real nice environment to be a philosopher, to be a student, to do any serious academic activity. So usually I whenever I get a chance, I talk to the young faculty, also the young students. I wish to read their mind, what they wish to be, and what is their career choice. Similarly, with the young faculty, I like very much to talk, because when we joined IIT system, then the things were completely different, environment is different, challenges were different. So in that environment we had grown up, we had seen, and the things that we wanted to do, behind that we had some kind of motivation, we got some kinds of facilities, and we had some kind of peer pressure. So those things have drastically changed over the years, and now the things in the all IITs especially, and any higher seats of learning, the environments are completely changed, and perhaps you have a lot of different kind of challenges. Within that you have to grow. That's so far as the faculty, young faculty is concerned, whereas the students who are now graduating, they face a different world altogether. And in our time we had unemployment. You also have an unemployment right now. But the thing is that in our time we didn't have the software companies all over the spread, all over the country, and most of the jobs were available, not at that time were not available. Right now you have jobs, most of the jobs are in the software area. And the teaching and other areas also you have opportunities, but those opportunities require different kind of preparation and different kind of expertise. So under that scenario, this particular talk might help you, especially this will help the young faculty to grow in an organization, and for the students, young students, those who will be joining some of the organization other than the academics, like research organization or any other organization, you will find that organization demands something from you, and how to perform in a particular organization to remain a very productive. For that you must have some kind of idea. And this lecture or this topic is a topic of a general nature, and therefore you might benefit, the students I'm talking about, you might benefit out of this talk. And you will see that some of these also are very relevant when you are studying and you are delivering your delivering thing is the knowledge, right? You are wanting to deliver a knowledge in a system. So that's what you can, that is how you can take the productivity word, meaning what for the students I'm talking about. The thing is that in this changing scenario, and in the coming 10 years, the scenario would be changing more drastically. Can we map any particular factors that would help or that will foster productivity of a person in an organization in general? Okay. Here I'll be talking about, of course, about scientists and engineers, but it is generally true also for a person working in an organization. So, the answer to this is there are certain fundamental factors. They perhaps do not change. The environment may be changing, the challenges may be changing, but those fundamental factors don't change very much. And the productivity of a person in an organization depend upon those factors. So this study highlights what are those factors. The study originated from a UNESCO study conducted by Professor Page and Andrews on 6 European laboratories. So they collected data from the R&D laboratories of 6 European countries and tried to find out what are the factors that is important or that influence significantly to the productivity of scientists and engineers. And this study, outcome of the study came out in the form of a book, and that book is available and very, very taken up as a very important book in organizational behavior. And the Professor Andrews himself did a lot of study about the creativity of scientists during 70 to 80. And out of his study, some kind of statements like earth-shaking discoveries took place within the age of 30. And it was a common slogan at that time that if you have not discovered very significant thing by the age of 30, then you have missed the bus. That's the kind of slogan was there at that time. So the Professor Andrews' work was heavily appreciated everywhere. And this UNESCO study actually resulted as a product of that. Now, parallel to that study, we conducted some study in IIT Delhi. The research work was taken up, and to find out in the academic setting in India, in higher seats of learning, what are the factors that influence the productivity of scientists and engineers. The name basically has been separated because we have engineering discipline, we have the science people, and the measuring criteria of science and engineers, they are little different, but in general they are scientists, whether you talk of engineer or scientist. So you can say broadly it is the productivity of scientists. What are those factors? So that's basically the basic thing behind presenting this particular work. So let me begin, and I begin with a quotation from the Emerson's essay. It says that it is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. So this is some kind of philosophical statement, but Emerson's great men may be substituted by creative scientists. And in the world, if the world represents the social milieu in which the scientists work. So the world basically is the social milieu, and the scientist is that the creative scientists are the great men. So, I mean, in a way, it's a too what we call idealistic definition of a scientist. That means who works in this world or social milieu without getting disturbed by anything. He only is in kind of work alcoholic, working with calmness. Okay. Even if it is a very idealistic statement, but we can try to achieve this kind of existence, being a scientist. Now the hypothesis of the study was productivity or performance of scientists includes engineers, as I told you, are related to a number of background variables, individual variables and organizational variables. Improving the organizational climate to foster productivity aims at providing optimal weightages to these variables. So that was the most important part of the study, that they identified a number of background variables, individual variables, and the organizational variables which affect the productivity of a scientist. And an organization as an application, organization can improve or foster the creativity or productivity of the scientist in the organization by providing some weighted factors. So the hypothesis was the influencing factors in the background variable, the financial status was taken into consideration, then scholastic achievement. These are the two background variables were taken up. Then a number of individual variables. These are also categorized under a psychological variable. Okay. So freedom, diversity. Under freedom, you can see that three different sub-factors were considered: number of decision sources on goal, major sources of decision on goal, and self-weight or autonomy on goal. So these are the three sub-factors were considered, and you can see that when you are trying to do any particular work we have as a goal, then how many number of decisions are influencing you on that. Then out of that, which is the major source of decision, that basically influence your productivity. And a self-weight or autonomy. You are a person who is not very much influenced by these decision-making sources. Your autonomous decision play the role. So that's about the freedom. Diversity, how much diversity you should have in your professional life, that was also measured. So this measurement was done with respect to 4 variables, sub-factors: percentage time spent in teaching, percentage time spent in research, percentage time spent in administration, and number of areas of specialization. These were the 4 areas, 4 sub-factors that were looked into. Then the next factor was taken up as a communication. The frequency of communication, number of colleagues contacted, and time spent in communication. These were the 3 factors that were sub-factors that were measured. Then this dedication. It's very difficult to measure dedication, but through the questionnaire, this dedication was measured by firstly by involvement in research, involvement in teaching. Okay. Now, how this involvement in research that is measured, that is by way of certain questionnaire, okay, that I'll talk little later. Then involvement in teaching. Then from that you bring out total dedication index for teaching, total dedication index for research. Then comes the very difficult thing in the organization to measure, that is job satisfaction. Now, when you talk of job satisfaction, it means that there is a provision and there is a desire. And the gap between the two, if there is a large gap between the two, then you are unsatisfied. The minimum the gap is, you are satisfied. So this is a statement, two statements or two sub-factors measured are paired, rather paired sub-factors are measured, that is desire for self-actualization and provision on self-actualization. This is then desire for status advancement, provision on status advancement, satisfaction on self-actualization, satisfaction on status advancement. Then satisfaction on autonomy in decision. Then total job desire, total job provision, total job satisfaction. So all these sub-factors again were measured through the instrument or the questionnaire that was built up. Next, motivation. Under the motivation, the direction of motivation, that is science orientation, professional orientation, status orientation, career ladder versus activities light. So that is a motivation factor. Then sources of motivation. That is another important thing that was used. That is own ideas as source, own previous work as source, freedom to carry out own work, then supervisor as a source, client or practical problems as a source, technical literature as source. These are the various sources of motivation one can have during your work phase. So these are the variables, main variables, factors, which it was hypothesized that they would influence your productivity. Then the productivity was measured again in four, actually three. The fourth one, administrative responsibility, is something which is related to a background factor, but still it is given over here that how much administrative responsibility one basically take in the while in the organization. It is for, of course, the scientists, right? That type of organization. So the productivity clearly were three: industrial productivity, teaching productivity, publication productivity. These are the three productivity. So these three productivities were measured. The influencing factors were measured. They were through questionnaire, and they were tricky questionnaire. So I have in the slides, I don't have that. I have some photocopy of the questionnaire over here. This questionnaire was not made framed by us. These questionnaires are made by Professor Pelge and Andrews. His questionnaire we had taken up, right? They are very nicely framed. They bring out all these factors very nicely through their question. And the questionnaires are to be answered in a 5-point scale. I'll be describing now about that. So that is what they in the study for your organizational behavior, they call this questionnaire answering etc. as an instrument. So a questionnaire was prepared to collect information regarding the factors assumed to influence the productivity. The factors were measured in 5-point scale, all right? very minimum to very high, right? So these were in the 5-point scale. Each factor has several subpoints. Scores in 5-point scale were analyzed. Productivity measures are also framed in 5-point scale. Very high, high, medium, low, that is 5-point scale. Scores for each point was individually considered. Also scores were added with weightages to find out the average total score of a factor which has several subpoints. So the subfactors, their effect on the productivity, that was studied. Also, say for example, if I take dedication, then the subfactors which are there, their score was weighted and summed up to get a number for dedication, for example, or for motivation, for example. So this part of the preparing the instrument and to do a scoring, and from the scoring to get the weighted scoring. In that, when you are doing the weighted scoring, we cannot do arbitrarily. Then we take the weightages from the expert opinion. We ask the experts that what should be the weightages that we should attach to different kinds of subfactors so that we can have a weighted summation. Then a multivariate analysis as usual. Once we get the scores or numbers, we carry out a multivariate analysis with to find out the intercorrelation between the factors and the correlation with the productivity. Each score of productivity, that is your research, teaching and industrial productivity. Then while doing this correlation analysis, we did not assume that the variables are linearly correlated. We found out both nonlinear correlation as well as the linear correlation. That is, we found out the R value and the eta value, okay, both. And looked at, in certain cases we found R values were very high, right, of the order of say 0.4, 0.3, this was the R value, whereas eta value may be 0.02 or 0.05. So in that case, we thought that this will be more linearly related than non-linearly related. So that's the correlation study. And from the correlation study, we found out that what are the subfactors and what are the factors which are strongly correlated with the productivity, each measure of productivity. This particular thing was studied. And after we have identified the factors or subfactors which are strongly correlated, for that we went for a simple relationship between the productivity measure and that subfactor. So that means in the form of hysteresis plots. And these hysteresis plots were converted into a line. So those graphs directly provide us a visual understanding that how these factors influence the productivity. And those results, in the first place, let me show you to get an idea that how we came to the conclusions of the study, or we'll discuss also about some of these results and which lead to the final part of this presentation. Okay, okay. Now, you can see that variation of administrative duties with age. It is a very interesting observation, it was found that administrative duty and age, they are highly correlated. And when we looked at it, we found that between the age of 41 to 45, that is administrative duty, the maximum administrative duty people perform, okay, regardless of position. That means whether he is an associate professor or a professor, doesn't matter regardless of that position. In general, in engineering discipline, it is 41 to 45. This was the age bracket we found. Similarly, in the science discipline, there are two peaks, exactly not two peaks, but the larger peak lies between 51 to 55, around in 50, in the range of 50. Whereas in the 36 to 40 also some people in the science discipline, that is found to be also there. So they contribute to the administrative duty. Maybe these days you have deans and associate deans. So dean may be, the associate deans may be in the group of 36 to 40, and whereas the deans may be in the range of 41 to 45 or 50 range deans. Then the mean score for inner source of motivation, that is a very, very interesting thing. Inner source of motivation means that in the questionnaire it was there that the source of study, is it dependent of your, driven by your own choice, or it is driven by the literature, or driven by some colleague contact. So this kind of thing. So that's how in the questionnaire from this, if it is completely driven by you, your inner self is trying to do that particular work, then we have identified it as the inner motivation, source of inner motivation. And there are two types of motivations that were identified. One is inner source of motivation, other is extrinsic source of motivation. Now, extrinsic motivation means you are driven by not your inner self, but you are driven more by the rewards, that you will achieve some position, and till then you will be working, and once you achieve that, automatically your productivity goes down. So that is the extrinsic source of motivation, and most of the people we are over here are perhaps driven by extrinsic factor, that means reward system. Once we want to have some reward, and for that we are working. Whereas inner source of motivation is to just to for your own pleasure. That means you are not bothered about reward and other kinds of things. Your inner self is wanting to work. So this is a very interesting thing, these two particular distinction in the motivation that we found in the Andrews also worked on that in that particular book, and that shows a very interesting thing and interesting modification or monitoring in the organization one can do to foster productivity of the people. So it is seen that in the engineering discipline, the 31 to 35, that is the age where it peaks, inner source of motivation peaks, and then it gradually declines, right, and becomes steady. Okay. So that steady part is very important. That means it is steady means you can see that after the age of 46 onward, it becomes steady. That means the intrinsically motivated person, they may be producing or creating very, high amount of, or they become very, very highly productive or creative at this range, at range of 31 to 35, which matches more or less with the Andrews discovery that all earth-shaking discoveries are within the age of 30. And beyond that, they found that if you are not able to do that, then you have missed the bus, that kind of thing. So you can see it is slightly coming near that, 31 to 35. Whereas in the science discipline, you can see that it is more or less flattened, in the sense that it remains 12 to 14, 14 to 12, in that range it becomes. Okay, it does not peak the way it has peaked in the engineering discipline. Whereas you can see that the mean achievement in engineering discipline and the mean achievement in the science discipline, they decline. This is the extrinsic motivation, this mean achievement. So these declines very fast. These decline very fast. Okay, after peaking it declines. Next is two sets of studies were made for high motivation and low motivation people, and administrative duty, that is with age, that was measured. And you can see a very interesting thing. It does not mean that the persons who are doing administrative duty, they are not productive. Their administrative duty is very high, 46 to 50, but they are equally productive. Whereas with a low motivation, you can see that is peaking around 41 to 45, but the duty achievement or the administrative duty which they are performing are less. So the general idea that we have, that if someone is doing an administrative duty, he may not be highly productive in teaching and research. That is not true. The high motivation people, high motivation people means they are doing research and teaching heavily. At the same time, they are performing very high in the administrative duty also. That means a productive person, in a way to say that he is productive at the same time in teaching, administration, as well as in research. So that's an interesting observation that came out from the data. Then in the publication, it's a very, very tricky thing to measure. So it's very difficult to measure the quality of publication. So therefore, what we did is at that time that we isolated the total publication, international journal publication from the total publication. So we measured the total publication as well as measured the international journal publication in our time, right, in 80s. And we found that high motivation and low motivation people, the mean score of publication in international journal engineering discipline, low motivation people, they have a more publication, and the age range is 41 to 45, that range. And similarly in the science discipline, it is just the reverse. Not reverse. And the low motivation people, they were publishing more, and the age range is again same 41 to 45. Now this is a very curious thing to explain, how a low motivation people were publishing more. Perhaps the reason is that the low motivation people wanted to come to the limelight, okay, and that's why they publish more. Maybe this may be one of the interpretation, but otherwise why this has shown up, otherwise difficult to explain. Then variation of productivity to age, position controlled, and here mean productivity in percentile. Okay, so we measured three publication in international journal and industrial productivity. Three measures are shown over here, and you can see that the mean productivity in the professor, again associate professor, assistant professor and lecturer. At that time associate professor was not there, so assistant professor and lecturer we separated from professor because their publication will more. So you can see that, and the score was shown in the form of percentile. So publication productivity, publication in international journal productivity, and industrial productivity. You can see that the publication in international journal quickly falls down, okay, after attaining peak 41 to 45. Again it shows 41 to 45. And total publication, of course, it's a mixed thing, but international journal, if you look at it, and industrial productivity, this droops down, then takes up at a later age. That's the industrial productivity. That means consultancy services. That means more you age, after a dip, then it takes up. In the assistant and professor level, the scenario is that total publication that picks up, the publication in international journal picks up more or less at the same age. Again it was 41 to 45. This is the 41 to 45 is the age range where we discovered that the most of the, then variation of productivity with the position control, science, this is for the science. Again the age range is 41 to 45. Here also it is, here assistant professor's level it is slightly at a less age. Then relationship between productivity and decision sources, that is an important thing. Teaching, publication, international, industrial, all the four measures were there, mean productivity, decision making sources. So you can see that there is a kind of optimum number when the decisions of making sources is about 3 to 4, in that range, the productivity is high. Here also at 4, you can see the productivity is high. Then the major source of decision, okay, and this shows also the here the self, immediate boss, self and the colleague, self and the boss and others. These are the major sources of decision, and in that it finds self and colleague. That basically when you have this, the productivity is maximum. Here also self and colleague mostly. Then autonomy in percentage, it was, you can see that 31 to 35% autonomy, not full autonomy. When you have a full autonomy, here it droops down clearly. There also it droops down in certain cases. Some cases it went up, but when it is autonomy is of the order of 30 to 40, that means full autonomy. When you do have, it's not that you will be having a high productivity. So a restricted autonomy. Then percentage time in research, that is in percentage. Again, if you see 41 to 60% when you are devoting for research, you have a high productivity. Here also 41 to 60, maybe in some cases. So that's about. Then percentage time in teaching. So 21 to 40, around that, and then it declines. High percentage time spent, that shows the mean productivity. That means the teaching productivity after these hours, it falls down. That means all of them fall down. Here also that you find age 21 to, so not the percentage time, 21 to 30%. Then areas of specialization. More areas of specialization, more productive you are. Okay, that is clearly shown. Then between productivity and percentage, administration. So in teaching, publication and all that, you can see that the percentage time, what I said before is that even if you are spending high time in administrative duty, your productivity in teaching, publication and other kinds of things don't fall down. Okay, so you will two peaks, one peak here, one peak there, and you are about 31 to 40% time you are spending in administration. Still, you are highly productive in other activities. Percentage time spent in communication. That is also a very interesting thing. That means how you communicate with the colleague. It is found that those who are having a measured communication about 5 to 9 hours per week, they are highly productive. Then again colleagues contacted. More numbers of colleagues you contact, you have better productivity. So communication, colleague contact, they basically are important thing for productivity. Then communication, that also you can see that it is, some of them are going very high, and when you have high, communicate highly. Okay, so these are some of the results. I have not shown all the results, but these show some. When we sum up these results, then we come to some kind of conclusion. So our observations, summary of the results provide a curious picture about the productivity of scientists and engineers. It is seen that scientists are more productive or perform better when they experience creative tension. And creative tension is experienced when scientists are put in between sources of security and sources of challenge. And sources of security and sources of challenge, what they are? Let's look at that. That means they must be having a creative tension. That is the jargon people use. Whether high performance leads to automatically to more security and challenge is difficult to resolve. Perhaps it is a cyclic process. High performers are attracted to diverse problems and to intellectual conflicts with decision-making sources. They also love freedom, try to influence the decision-making sources, and desire to remain self-reliant. That is high performers. Thus, they expose themselves to both climate of security and challenge, which in turn stimulate them to perform better. So you can see that high performers are attracted to diverse problems, and intellectual conflicts with decision-making sources. That is a thing which is a not a security but a challenge. And they also love freedom. So, and they influence the decision-making sources, therefore they have a conflict. Okay, they bring challenges from that. So from that, a statement that Pelton and Drews had made in his book, and that's I have quoted over here. Necessity is said to be the mother of invention, but our data suggest that invention, that is technical achievement, has more than one parent. Necessity might better be called the father, since necessity is one form of a challenge, a masculine component. The role of mother is rather some source of security. When both are present, the creative tension between them can generate scientific achievement. So very nicely it is said that you have a source of challenge and source of security. Both of them, which are, then we will see, we will group basically that what is source of security and challenge. But when both are present, a person is more creative. So he has altered the conventional statement that necessity is said to be the mother of invention. Now let's look at, just one second, I will show you. Yes, so let us look at the security. Among the conditions of security, major factors influencing the performance were self-reliance. When you have a self-reliance, you are secured. Okay. Then pursuit of own ideas, you are secured there. Okay, because you are pursuing your own idea. Then when you have got autonomy, that is also a security, and informal communication. Okay, then these are the sources of security, whereas the sources of challenge, that influence of other sources of decision in shaping your own goal. So obviously, number of more decision-making sources you have, so that's a challenge. Then rigorous interaction with colleagues on work-related matter, that is also a challenge. And diversity of functions. When you have diversity of function, then also this is a challenge. So these are the challenges, and the securities are the things which are at your own hand. So finally, it is one way of putting this that I'll come later, but let me explain the previous one. So from the study in the different factors, it was found that scientists more productive in teaching and research are self-reliant, involved, and deep in their approach to work. Those who contribute more to teaching activities have more communication with their colleagues and love freedom to carry out their own work. More productive scientists in research have relatively strong desire for self-actualization. They have either more areas of specialization, or they may be highly specialized in one area. Then technical literature acts as a good source of motivation for them. They perform better under conditions of restricted freedom with visibility of consequences rather than complete autonomy. That I will come later, because that is true for all productivity. Scientists who are more productive in industrial services have more areas of specialization, have greater contact with their colleagues on work-related matter. Their desire for status is high, and they have an aptitude for coming out with an immediate solution for problems. So you can see that those who are doing consultancy or industrial services, they have typically these kinds of attributes. And surprisingly, these attributes, we find that is present in most of the people who are productive in consultancy or industrial services, because they have a love to get for immediate solution to the problem. and they have a tendency to have a high status, and they have a greater contact with colleagues and other work-related matter people. Scientists are generally most productive in mid-40s, that you have seen. A restricted freedom with visibility of consequence is most conducive to scientist performance. So this is what I said, that if you have a condition of challenge and condition of security both together, that means you are not completely free, and you have to basically answerable to what you are doing. Okay. When you have this kind of situation, that means you have certain freedom of your own to do the things, your own traits or your own pursuits, and also you are answerable what you are doing. When you have that particular situation, then a person is most productive. Informal communication among scientists are helpful to their performance. Diversity in the academic field as well as in functions leads to higher performance. Some amount of administrative function is helpful to scientists' professional productivity. So this I have already said. So this is again I have repeated, this is not. Other factors found to influence productivity is age, motivation and dedication. Productivity is found to decline with age, that you have seen. Motivation is found to influence the shape of the productivity versus age, that also you have seen. Intrinsic motivation is found to resist the erosion of age significantly. That is one of the important things perhaps we should learn, and it is true regardless of any environment and anything. Because intrinsically motivated people, they are not bothered about reward. They go on working. Okay. So obviously their age, with the age, it does not fall down. Extrinsic motivation helps growth of productivity up to a certain age and then declines once you achieve your own goal. Creating environment. So now this is so far as the study is concerned. Now how to use this study in the organization, that's the most important thing. How the organizational leaders can use this study. So creating an environment to foster productivity. So they have to create an environment, okay, in the organization. So meetings where individuals' ideas about project and curriculum courses could be critically examined. That is one kind of platform they should make. Formation of study teams and evaluation groups, encouraging friendly disagreements in forums of academic discussions, diversity of functions as well as diversity in the areas of specialization by involving individuals in 2 or 3 different activities, by changing individuals' areas of teaching at certain intervals. These are that is how we can bring diversity. And promoting facilities for new areas of research, and that's of course a very common thing. Major attention should be given to mid-career review with each scientist. So that is again a very important issue that a management can do. A planned program of renewing motivating forces may check the decline of performance. So that is also, that means how you can motivate persons. So you have to plan some programs. Such planned programs may consist of sabbatical services, shifting the individuals to more task-setting activity, or assigning them more administrative responsibility. Possibly scientists could be given more advisory position if SAC has taken place. This is a common thing, but here it is not practiced in our case. Whenever you find a person is declining in your academics and the research, you take the person and put him into the administrative position. Just the opposite thing done over in our situation. Here the persons who are active, and it is seen also in the study that a productive person is productive in all the areas, that is industrial, teaching, research, and he also participates heavily in the administration. But administrative duties perhaps should be given more to the people whose productivity has sagged down. So put them into administrative productivity. Okay. So that's what I had to present to you, and now I open myself to your questions.
So thank you, sir, for the engrossing talk with lots of data and its interpretation. And the floor is now open for few questions. If you have any questions, so volunteers, please arrange the mics.
Thank you so much for that interesting statistics. What I am curious about is like your life and your contribution is way an outlier from all the statistics that you have shown. So I wanted to know what is the secret behind being motivated, being productive in this age as well.
For me, okay, the intrinsic, frankly, intrinsic motivation. I am not extrinsically motivated, although, I mean, I am now sufficiently aged and I can talk anything openly. Okay, I don't have any inhibition. This reward, all of us are running after reward. Okay, we must be recognized. For example, I must be fellow of this, fellow of that, or I must have a high position. All that kind of thing. That's quite natural in anything. But the thing is that to create some kind of inner source of motivation in you, that sustains with age, and you can remain creative for a longer time. And after some time, for example, no one cares me right now, so I am out of the all ball game. That means for getting any medal, these, that, out of all this. Still I am working because I was intrinsically motivated. And still I wish that I live for another 10 years. And in this 10 years, if I can write another book, but I know I will not be able to do that, but still I am saying that I have that inner urge.
This intrinsic motivation has got a word. I'd like to amplify what you are saying. So there are two words. One is inspiration and one is motivation. Both are Greek words coming from the Greek. Inspire is to breathe in, and that means if you have got the intrinsic motivation, it becomes inspiration, means you are inspired from within. There is no motivation is motion. You have to push. So people motivate. So motivation can lead to certain extent. It is the inspiration, intrinsic inspiration, which leads to perform, and it defies whatever your studies, that age. In fact, it should be ulta in my this. And when was this study carried out?
Pardon?
When was this studies?
This is 1980s.
So with the generation, I think this study will definitely put a new dimension, because we have to carry out this studies, because whatever the studies which are old studies, they are not, in my opinion, because today you will find very, very weird things. I don't know how to put it, but we should look at it, this age defying, that you are highly productive at the 20s, 30s. I think we should see what the Nobel Prize winner, they are at much later stage. So
no, that's all right. This is fine. What I'm saying is this study says in an organization, even if you now look at any organization, I think the age bracket of 41 to 45, that is the age bracket where most of the people are highly productive. It is in the age bracket. Those who are productive, very productive. And after that you continue, but maybe this is the peak period. The creativity of scientist 30, that is very much what you call appropriate for great discoveries, earth-shaking discoveries. So that actually no one is doing. However, the discovery or the what you call productivity or new results, all these kinds of things, meanings, they change with time. Now the results of any scientific outcome, that has got many other dimensions. It is not that you solve some problem and find and come out with some kind of big discovery. So it is some kind of a joint venture and more applied, and then we will say that it's a discovery. But in general it is found that the intrinsic motivation that I am talking about is that you are innerly motivated. You are innerly motivated. No one is trying to push you. And once you are innerly motivated, you can do whatever you want to do. So the other part I said about is that the reward system. If you are motivated to get reward only, and that means you become FNA, FNAE, or this gold medal, that gold medal and all that, and then after that stop working, right? That is another scenario. And most of us perhaps are doing that we become big shot and then no more try to work seriously or stop, no, I'll not say stop working, I'll go on advising my people, colleagues and other people, and then run away from the scene. I'm not talking about that, right? That means you still work like the way you are working before. With your pen and pencil, you are still, solving the problem and finding out the result. Whether the student do the result or not, you are not bothered. You can find it out. So that kind of spirit I'm talking about. So that kind of spirit to sustain requires the inner motivation. Otherwise, you will be extrinsically motivated because you have done so, now you are a manager. And there are two terms I'll tell you, which I should not say openly, but many people object. I say that you are not a researcher. I tell many of my colleagues, senior colleagues, but you are not a researcher, you are a research manager. What he does, he is running a big lab. He is earning all name, right? And what he is doing, he is managing a number of researchers. They are doing the actual job. So I don't consider them to be researcher. They are not intrinsically motivated. They are not at all. They have achieved some position, definitely achieved some position. After that, he is doing a managerial job. How is he a scientist? He will say, no, I am giving my idea. So even I have met a professor, he says that when I sit on my sheet pot, I have many ideas. And I come and in the morning I tell it to the students. I said, what sheet you are talking about? So this is, many people try to, say that they are doing so much of work and all that kind of thing, and it happens. So they are not, they cannot sustain. The moment they will cross the age of 60 or 50 or 60, they will be doing only managerial job. You ask him, I tell him, you sit down, please. I told him, one of my professors, telling like that, please sit down, and for 1 hour you sit on this table and solve this problem. Can you do it? Then he took me wrongly. He became very angry with you. Are you challenging? I said, no, I am not challenging you. What I am saying that I am trying to see, how much, spirit you have got inside to work like a scholar. Whether something is left within you or you are just simply, talking. So when I talk of extrinsically motivated, intrinsically motivated person, I am talking about those persons intrinsically motivated. They don't mind whether there is a student, they don't even want any student. He will himself work and find out the solutions and everything. That is the intrinsic motivation. That is what I mean by intrinsic motivation. Anyway, yeah, please.
Academia. I'm fine. So, have you noticed initially when you started your journey and when you ended, there are some pole shift in these graphs by your intuition or apparently that there is a change in motivation or type of motivation or the other metrics that you were talking about?
In the current generation or what?
Comparatively, when you started and when you ended.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. In our generation, we don't have so many gadgets, frankly speaking, at our time. So many gadgets did not come up. Okay, we have pen and pencil. We were relying on that. Even computer was not very, very popular at that time. Many people used to solve the problem in hand. Now, we were somehow or other to be self-reliant, to be productive. And we used to solve our problems in our own way, not getting also the support of many students. We did not have many research scholars with us, right, or assistants or anyone. Whatever we have done ourselves only, okay. Whereas when we compare basically today, people, you have got many gadgets, computers, softwares, so many things are there, okay. And you have at least, say, for example, 6, 7 research scholars at a time with you to help you. So, yes, you are working, you have idea, and you jointly work, that is also very nice. But the thing is that perhaps you have to be very, very, very much hard working, and that hard work used to come out from our own motivation. No one said me that you produced 45 PhDs. For 5 PhD I could have become a professor and ended up everything. But still I am doing it for the sake of maybe to lead a nice life, that's all. Nothing more than that. So the change, he has changed, definitely. It has changed. And those people, those who are more productive at that time were, I would say, more intrinsically motivated people. Here also you will get many intrinsically motivated people. They are doing the work. But the amount of slogging that we had to do, that kind of slogging perhaps these days as people don't have to do.
In that case, people today will be, in terms of production, will be more productive because they can jointly produce lot of things with the help of lot of gadgets and lot of
Yes.
So in the terms of, just for metrics, in terms of production, they will be more productive than the older generation.
Yeah, whatever you said I can understand. You will find today that if a paper is published, you will find there are some minimum 6 authors are there these days. In our time it used to be only 2 authors, that's all, the student and the guide, okay. Now I sometimes wonder that 6 authors are doing one particular work, and that work maybe even not a laboratory work. If a laboratory work, as you said, that jointly all of us are working together in a laboratory to create something, it requires a more number of people and the productivity it comes. But for a simple paper, ordinary paper, I find there are 6 authors. Then who is contributing what, I do not know. This is the kind of scenario. In experimental research, yes, I agree. sometimes but still then maximum 3, 4, that is enough. Not sometimes in environmental engineering, I think environmental people should not take it in otherwise. Environmental engineering, I find 5, 6 authors in one paper. And so I wonder why, why 5, 6 people are there. So working in a group is fantastic, and you can give a good, you can produce a lot and very valuable thing.
One thing which now we have, you may like to define is the original work, the production. What you said, the people in the 20s, 30s, the spark is there. So all the great invention or great discoveries happen in those periods.
But not these data. These data are for IIT people.
Right.
IIT people.
But otherwise, the scientists, if you see the Einstein or
Yeah.
like even today also, if you think Zuckerberg and all these people, they produce whatever at the prime age.
Yeah.
The original work.
Yeah.
But today,
Gender-specific observations in this study?
Gender specific, no, frankly speaking. We take the professors as professor irrespective of gender. It was not gender specific.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, how do you recommended a balance between coursework, research and personal life for maximum efficiency?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. You can see that here, this study, that a person who is productive, he is productive in teaching as well as in research, as well as in industrial, as well as administration. He is productive in all. How is it possible, right? Is he creating a balance? If he creates a balance, he cannot be productive. So it means that that particular person has a lot of drive in himself. That drive may be coming out of these two, either intrinsic drive or extrinsic drive, either of the two. So out of that drive, basically, he is producing. Okay. So it's not that he is trying to maintain a balance, a proportion of this, but definitely they are highly planned. They are highly planned people, that they know that this much of work here I'll do, this much of work I'll do. The category is like that. So that's how they maintain the balance. Has to be there. Otherwise, you will be only, it will be oblique kind of productivity. Yes.
So first of all, thank you for the interesting talk. One interesting slide that we saw was the motivation versus the number of publications,
Yeah.
international publications. So we saw that less motivated people actually published more number of papers.
Yeah.
So what could be, can we explore the reasons behind this?
Yeah, low motivation people are publishing high. That's what you say, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the reason for that?
Mm-hmm.
So these are also the data turned out to be like that. Okay, sit down. Data turned out to be like that. Now perhaps the motivation, that was a motivation which is not intrinsic motivation, total motivation. When we say high motivation and low motivation, we mix the two, all the two motivations we join together. Okay, and the low motivation people who scored low motivation, they may be scoring low because they may not be having the intrinsic motivation. When you combine with the extrinsic motivation of the person, then they may not be highly intrinsically motivated. They have an extrinsic motivation. And extrinsic motivation people have a tendency to come to limelight. Okay, so that's why they may not. And that publication also it was in an international journal also, or it is ordinary publication. It means international journal, isn't it? Yeah. So in the international journal,